Hey everybody, this is Silverspook, and this is the Silverspook video on Pluribus, Prisoner, and Indigenous dystopian fiction author's perspective. Um, yeah, I wanted to kind of do a video on each, but I don't think that's going to happen because of time. Yeah, I think I'm just going to kind of combine it all into one. Anyway, I know I've already done a more than one Pluribus video, but it's worth doing a now the a complete season post completing the season discussion. And also I also want to talk about The Prisoner, and which is a show from the 1960s, a also dystopian sci-fi show from the 1960s starring Patrick McGoohan, who was one of the hottest things on British TV at the time. Star of Danger Man, which was I think was the most popular British TV show, starring a secret agent. It's kind of like PG James Bond. He doesn't womanize and he doesn't use guns very much. It was like TV appropriate, and it's a unique, very unique cult mystery show. It's a kind of a phenomenon all its own, and I just finished watching it all the way through. Part of the reason why I even went and watched this show is because this is some personal dystopian fiction. Well, I'm an indie game creator, but I also write dystopian fiction for the games that I create, which often have dystopian themes, such as Neofeud, and before that, a game called Terminus Machina. But fun fact: the first voice acting gig I ever had was in another Deus Ex. Deus Ex is also a dystopian fiction video game. It came out around 2000. It also deals with kind of nightmarish world, surveillance, being watched, being controlled, systems of control, which are themes of all of these, Prisoner, Pluribus, and Deus Ex. And the first voice acting gig I ever had was actually not in Terminus Machina, but it was in a game called Deus Ex Nihilum, and Deus Ex Nihilum, which was a mod. It was like a spin-off game based on the Deus Ex game. And I didn't realize, but actually, Deus Ex it's not the most well-known thing in the world. But a friend of mine, or somebody I knew while I was working on my game, Terminus Machina, which is also a dystopian fiction video game, he needed voice acting for this game. So part of the reason why I even went back and watched The Prisoner, I probably should have watched it sooner, but there's so much to do. There's so much in the world, right? It's hard to get to every single thing. But Deus Ex Nihilum actually has its own TV Tropes page, which is neat. And there's somebody called Number One. Number One is a character in this game, Deus Ex Nihilum, right? And he is played by me. So the funny thing is I've actually had to watch like snippets of The Prisoner. I don't know if we have a good shot of him, but it's Deus Ex is like you play a special agent. It's like Cloak and Dagger. It's spy stuff. It's James Bond stuff. The Prisoner is James. It's like, as I said, it's like family friendly James Bond, right? It's like Mission Impossible, but more family friendly. And so So the prisoner and Deus Ex also have something in common. Anyway, so I was playing this character called Number One, and he says, he's like agent. He's like he's like literally like basically the one eye patched Bond villain. So I got to play a Bond villain. Like, he has a lot of lines too. He says decades about 17 times. So that's why I always joke with Holly, like, I've been wanting, this record will self-destruct in 5 seconds if you don't immediately bring me a ham sandwich. It's been decades since I've had a ham sandwich. That's not the voice I did. I swallowed a spider and now I can't speak properly. Sorry, there like literally are spiders floating around. That's nothing. That's not dystopian science fiction often has spiders in it, but that's just something that happened to be in the air at the moment. Anyways, so I had to play Number One, the James Bond villain. Sorry, I'm like getting lost in 3 different trains of thought. And so I was like, I was like on the Twitch, I was actually streaming some of this game, this Deus Ex Nihilum game. Like, these are some screenshots from it. And while I was streaming it, I was like, you know what? I should probably go back and watch. I should probably go back and watch the actual prisoner on which this dystopian Deus Ex mod my character was based on, right? And so anyway, so I went back and watched The Prisoner. If you haven't watched, on to the real topic without me just getting sidetracked for the next 2 hours. Do watch The Prisoner though. I'd highly recommend it. It's it's a very good show. It's a show that ended Patrick McGoohan's illustrious British career, British TV career. He basically didn't work again there. This was a great scene from The Prisoner. It's free to watch on YouTube, Tubi, Prime. You can watch it. You can watch it basically. You can probably watch it on your calculator. You can watch it on your microwave. When your fridge watches you, can also watch The Prisoner back. Watch The Prisoner on the fridge that's watching you. Be seeing you. That's the famous hand motion from this show. Anyways, so if you don't take anything else, I do recommend you check it out. It's highly watchable even 60 years later. It's a 60-year-old show. Patrick McGoohan died in 2008, so rip to him. It looks like Number One finally got him. Anyways, okay. Let's get into it. So if you don't know anything about The Prisoner, go ahead and you can look up information on Wikipedia or IMDb. But basically, in The Prisoner, the main character, number 6, he's unnamed. He is the intro. He speeds in on a sports car into his British office. Right, he was. Some people think that number 6 is actually Danger Man, the super spy, working for the British government that Patrick McGoohan played in the previous years. There's no confirmation of that. That's like a fan theory. I mean, it's he's playing a similar kind of character. Sorry, I forgot to start my chat. But the main character is a spy who speeds in on his race car into the British intelligence office. He slams his hand on the desk, throws his letter of resignation unceremoniously upon his boss's desk. In a manner that he kind of Jerry Maguire's out, but even more violently. he probably got thrown out by security. I heard someone comment that nobody would actually do that in real life. Certainly not in Britain. Everyone keeps calm and carries on, and just allows dystopia to happen. And but anyways, okay. So in The Prisoner, he shows up. He comes back to his office. He resigns, and he says, "I quit." When he drives back to his apartment in London, right when he enters his flat, mysterious men in top hats come out of a car behind him and blast some kind of gas into his doorknob, and his apartment fills with some kind of noxious, toxic fumes. He falls unconscious. When he wakes up, he's in an unknown room, right? The prisoner, let's get the prisoner intro. Yeah, he wakes up and he's in some kind of unknown room he's never seen before. When he walks to the window, that's his car. When he walks to the window, he's in a place that he's never been before, right? It's called the Village. He's in this place called the Village. That's a little distant shot of it. Wait, is that showing up on the screen? Yeah. And the Village is a place where secret agents, generals, naval officers, and people of all kinds, persons of interest, right? Important people who had positions of power, people who were or are intelligence officers of some kind. They have all kind of very precious information in their head, right? They know all kind of state secrets, right? Whether they work for the British government, the American government, the Russian at that time Soviet government, French government, governments around the world. They had all kinds of key information, location of weapons, new technologies, locations, names of bases, government officials, all kind of things, right? Plans of other governments. And so in the Village, all of these people, I believe like one of the things, one of the original impetuses behind The Prisoner was what happens to secret agents when they retire, right? Like what happens when James Bond, hangs up his hat and he's done. It's like what does happen, right? And I was reading about like Patrick. I watched like a half an hour interview with Patrick McGoohan. He executive produced it and he also starred in this show. It's interesting because his resignation, right, was very similar to the fictional character number 6, which he plays, Resignation from MI6, right? At least it's some kind of it's near Big Ben office that he's resigning from, and it's important enough that they take him, and he's like one of the most, if not the most important person for the people who run the Village. I'm sorry, the prison. I'm sorry, the Village. But when Patrick McGoohan resigned, I thought this was interesting. He said like he was sick. He had played 56 episodes of the same secret agent, right? Globetrotting, stopping evil people from, doing evil things, thwarting, the kind of characters that Mike Myers made fun of with Dr. Evil from, destroying the world and these kind of things, right? He's doing secret agent stuff, right? Secret agent boy. He said apparently he just didn't want to use guns much. I can't remember if that was more of a personal thing that he didn't want to do, or that was like something that was also like at the request of the TV network stuff. I can't remember. I think it's partially he didn't want to do that though. It tells you something about he himself has always been kind of a defiant person, and it's even see that in the interviews. I one of the interviews, he's like, just it's like he's like, was the prisoner about society? And it's like, of course it is. Just to get into this joint, to have this discussion, I had to go through 3 layers of security, patted down, prodded, poked. I was briefed and debriefed 6 times. Asked about, my place of origin, my nationality, blah, blah, blah. They had to see my, 3 armies of different people had to ask me, 6 sets of questions, just to get into this joint. It makes me mad. Makes me angry. Makes me want to rebel. That's how he is in the show. He suddenly goes into like outbursts of like defiance. So anyway, so that's a major theme, is like the individual rebelling, and it's like he's like the most individualistic, rebellious individual that ever individuated or rebelled. He's for whom the rebel tolls. You know what I'm saying? Pluribus, and a pluribus also is the individual that is separate, definitely separate, super hyper individual, hyper different, right? Just resolutely, impossibly, unbreakably unique, is another theme that crosses over between these two. I would actually argue certainly all Western dystopian sci-fi deals with some element of that. You have like somebody who is extremely staunchly individual. At every intro of the prisoner, he number 2, right? Number 2, the evil Dr. Evil stand-in, and number 2 constantly is cycled in and out. Every episode there's a new number 2. You never meet number 1, but number 2 is if number 2, who is in the command of this prison, right, for secret agents, fails to extract this ultra valuable information out of the prisoner's head, the number 2 is replaced, possibly recycled, or meets some terrible end, and he's replaced by a new number 2 who has his job. And so anyway, so Patrick McGood's like a rebellious nature. I think he's Irish, as far as I know. He's Irish. I'm pretty sure. The name obviously is very Irish, but and he's he's Irish playing a British special agent, overthrowing governments for a global imperial colonialist capitalist system. I'm sorry, he's just saving the world. It's interesting is actually Pierce Brosnan, I had no idea, was also, or he's Irish. Pierce Brosnan, I had no idea was Irish until like 5 years ago or 3 years ago, when I saw he was in this action movie starring himself and Jackie Chan, set in Britain and Ireland, and that was the first time I ever heard his actual Irish accent. So, so actually, Pierce Brosnan and Patrick McGowan share something in common. They're both Irish ethnicity, Irish of nationality, but they're playing their colonizers' superheroes. They're playing, speaking of, this is an Indigenous perspective. So both Patrick McGowan and Pierce Brosnan are Irish people who have, historically, of course, they've centuries before the British went off and spread plague and cholera and smallpox blankets and annihilated Native Americans and went around the world and and ruled under a barrel of a gun all its colonies, all these indigenous peoples. They colonized Ireland, right, and used them as slaves and wrote entire dystopian fiction about that, right, such as Jonathan Swift's Modest Proposal. And nobody, just as the prisoner, just as Western countries, colonizers like the United States and the West, live in panopticon today, live under authoritarian control today with AI, with extra AI, 7-fingered shrimp Jesus characteristics, but you're still in the same kind of prison. Nobody listened to Jonathan Swift. Nobody really closely listened and acted successfully on Jonathan Swift's correct critique through The Modest Proposal, the solution to Irish starvation, which is to eat all of their babies. The Irish should simply eat their children. And it includes a cookbook of various meals you can prepare using the flesh of Irish children, right? And that was dystopian fiction, right? It's described as like the ultimate prototypical satire, but it was also so that's one of my takes, is that there's a lot of dystopian fiction that colonizers, as a native person, colonizers create and produce a lot of, like the British and Americans, etc., produce a lot of dystopian fiction. It doesn't seem to have made much difference, unfortunately. So not that it can't, but that's something that's unique. It's I think Alan Moore, famous low. I think he's from a place that's as crap as Stratford upon Hull. I have a friend who lives there. He's also of Irish descent and makes dystopian fiction. Alan Moore, who famously was from he's from a poorer background, went to a fancier school. Made The Watchmen. He got a bit. He made a name for himself in the comic book world. The Watchmen was probably one of his most famous. V for Vendetta, I believe, was also another one. One of his works. I think he said the comic book industry is filled with people. I'm paraphrasing, but the comic book industry is filled with people who write stories about super courageous, super brave, bold individuals that stand up for the little guy and do what's right in the face of evil. Despite none of the comic book creators standing up for any of their fellow people and doing what's right in their own industry. When the big comic book industry was throwing people like Jack Kirby and all these other people under the bus, they all were not Superman. They were not they were not rebellious and standing up against evil. They were not. None of them were Number 6. They write stories about Number 6, and I think partially that's the colonizer thing, is they know their systems are prisons, right? They know they live in they know that they live in a hive mind authoritarian regime, right? They know they're the bad guy somewhere, or maybe they don't. They try to not remember that, and then they write stories to themselves about what they would do. It's this kind of Schrodinger's. It's a quantum white brain, right? Where simultaneously things are fine because that, right. The prisoner is very direct. It's got there's a lot of scenes where people are asked to rebel, and there's a sign that says, "Now rebel," right? Now be defiant. Like the prisoner, the Number 6 says, "We're going to break out of this place," and then there's a sign that says, "Clap and raise your fist." It's like, raise your fist in the air and shout that we're going to break out of this place. It's partially also a joke on the British culture, because I think there's something to that, where it's it's the Irish guy coming to this place in Britain where everyone, like in a TV show, people, if something is not actually that funny, people will just laugh and slap their leg and they're laughing and crack up. And when it's the time to stop laughing, they just instantly stop. Right? And there's a scene in The Prisoner where it's he's going off on this epic speech about, it's his final, it's supposed to be Number 6's ultimate soliloquy. He's gonna tell them, he's gonna finally stick it to the capital M man. He's gonna tell Number 1 and this entire perverse social experiment, torment nexus nightmare what is up, right? He's giving his big speech, and every time he starts, right, I don't know if I can get that scene. It's one of them. It's a very one of the most famous scenes from this show. It's one that my friend that was working on that dystopian Deus Ex mod sent me. Let me see if I can find that one. Yeah, he's giving this speech. And every time he opens his mouth, right, to start talking, all these people in the audience, it doesn't really matter who exactly it is. They're all they're wearing this black and white mask. There's a whole lot of symbolism and metaphors and allegory and such that, I'm sure many there are entire departments that have job security for hundreds of there are multiple universities that have entire departments devoted simply to analysis of the prisoner. Much job security was had in California and in British Columbia and in parts of the UK, just talking to undergrads about the prisoner. It's such a great thing. I'm so happy for them. Anyways, in the prison of colonizer academia, they have a very nice a bunk. They have a very nice seat. No, in this scene, he's about to give his talk. He's gonna say, "I'm gonna tell you what's up. I am not a prisoner. I am not a number. I will not be labeled. I will not be briefed or debriefed. I will not make any deals with you. I will not be surveilled. I will not be stamped. I will not be controlled. Right? I am a free man." That's like he goes off on that on every episode. There's at least one or more. The intro has it, and he's constantly just kind of rebelling against anyone trying to control him in any possible way, right? And in this moment, he's like gonna give his final. It's on the final episode. He's gonna give his big speech, and he's like, "This is a mockery this is a mockery of society. This democracy is a farce. Your judicial system is a joke. Everything here is contrived. Your education system is nothing but propaganda. Everything you do here is an insult to life itself." You don't know what he's saying, but you can tell from his face that's what he's saying, right? He's like, "I am going to come back here. I'm going to burn this place to the ground. I'm going to crush it, annihilate it, obliterate it. Nothing will be left standing," just like at the end of a James Bond film when, the evil supervillains, castle or like underground lab or, the place where they're taking people's brains and they're swapping people's brains or like cloning people or, storing some kind of like nuclear weapon technology, right? Or the communist brainwashing, right? And the Bond villain's lab explodes. I was just playing Mega Man the other day because I made a video about Mega Man last time. And it's like, yeah, at the end of every movie, every game, because it's kind of like at the end of every one of these action movies and these secret agent things, the villain's lair tends to blow up. Right? It's just like it's like analysis of dystopian fiction. It's job security for pyrotechnicians and demolitions and special effects people in Hollywood. So I'm glad that they let people blow up. It's really great that people could still make human art and not have AI generated, stolen, regurgitated Torment Nexus, malprogrammed, malused hardware and software, NVIDIA Ponzi schemes. I'm glad that people still have jobs on the set of Pluribus. What do they blow up in Pluribus? They don't blow up as much, so I feel bad for them. There is a big explosion. Some planes and cars crash, so that's good for them. Good for them. Make it setting random buildings on fire. Anyways, back to the point. So when he's talking, he's giving this speech. He's about to start letting them all know what is up, right? He's about to just give his he's going to give his Roy Batty Tears in Rain. When he starts talking, all of the crowd, right? All of the audience that are like, they're supposed to like, I shouldn't tell you too much, but let's just say like, they're looking up to him, right? And they're waiting for him to give his big moving speech. It's like what is it? It's like the Bill Pullman. We will not go quietly into that good night. Right? It's like the big inspiring speech that changes the world. Right? This is another aspect of colonizer science fiction and colonizer fiction. The one speech, if I could just, slow clap and then everyone starts clapping, right? The one big speech, the big Independence Day, and then all of the world rallies behind the U.S. and NATO, and U.S. imperialism and capitalism, white supremacy rule the world for the next 2,000 years. I'm sorry. And then the aliens are defeated. You get this one big speech, and if you could just say the one big speech at the one right time, everything is right with the world. Slow zoom in on the protagonist as he's talking. Zoom back out to stadiums full of people. The whole planet just like everyone just like sees the errors of the ways and the world is fixed. I mean, it's like you gotta, it's wish fulfillment in cinema and television. That's what it is. And also in books and in stories in general. It is what it is. So he's giving his speech, but I mean that is one way that the prisoner is subversive. Patrick McGowan actually had to leave. They were so infuriated at the end of The Prisoner that Patrick McGowan had to flee Britain because people were like accosting and harassing his children in school. They were like chasing him around. Like it's and what's interesting in his interview, Patrick McGowan said that he counted that as his greatest success. Right? I finally got these keep calm, carry on, endure feudalism, endure beatings, endure starvation, endure a slice of bread between two other slices of bread, and the elites telling you that's a sandwich and you just accept that? You accept that's a bread sandwich? Well, we're British. What are we supposed to do? We just fall in line and we queue up like a bunch of little lemmings. So Patrick McGowan said, I took that as my greatest success, was finally getting the British, mad. And what they rebelled against me and my infuriating TV show that ended in a way they didn't like it, and they actually threatened to kill him. So at least they revolted against something, At least the French cut off some of their a-holes leadership's heads, but these British, So he was an Irishman that finally got the British to, and Alan Moore. I'm sure Alan Moore probably found that entertaining. He made it an entire comic book about the British Parliament being exploded, as people remember this particular day of November. So from an indigenous perspective, at least he finally got a colonizer to punch upwards for like 1 second out of 2,000 years. So that's pretty good. Anyway, so anyways, back to Patrick McGowan. So he literally, I'm not joking about it. He and his family had to flee. They left and went to Wales for some time, due to the backlash of how infuriated everybody was. So, but I mean, that is also a testament to the show. It is subversive in that sense. It is defiant. It is rebellious in that sense. And also like it did cost him his entire career. Like he didn't work again in the British entertainment. He did get some jobs later on in the US where it was less of a fiasco. It was less of a big event in the US. But it was basically like a flame out. It was like he described like actually let me finish this. I'll come back to that. But in this scene, right, he's trying to give his speech. Every time he tries to give his speech, everyone in the audience begins to they just start saying I. Like he says I, like he's saying like, I am disgusted, or I forget what he's saying. He's like, I am uh, uh, I remain in contempt of this deplorable place. And every time he says I, because he starts it with I, everyone in the audience says AYE, like, yes, I, like, yes, 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 yes. Whatever you say, boss, right? And so every time he starts, it says I, and it's like, they're like, I. There's 1,000 people saying I's. He stops. He starts again. Every time he says it, he takes out the gavel, right? Because he has the judge's gavel now. He says I, and he just starts, he whacks the hammer down. They slow down for a little bit, but every time he restarts, no matter how hard he whacks the gavel, they just keep saying yes, 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 yes. But they're saying yes so loud that they can't even hear what he's saying, right? They just like, whatever you say, we'll do it. But like, you know, and I don't think that, I don't know if, like, you know, I don't know if people who bow down to fraudulent, farcical, plutocratic non-democracies like the United States, the UK, and the whole collective West have been bloodletting this entire freaking planet and pretending it's like Russia, China, Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, or someone else, you know, or some, you know, evil communism somewhere. People who, right, don't rebel, they are the bad guy. Their collective elite regimes are the bad guy. They're the one unaliving people in the Middle East right now. They're the one bombing Venezuela as we speak, right? And they're talking about, right? And so these places, particularly the UK, is even more so. You just for whatever reason, it's probably because it's the mother of all the Anglo-Saxon imperial regimes, the colonizer regimes worldwide. Like, I don't even know if they got that it was about them. I think the majority probably didn't, right? It's like, whatever. I mean, the point is, obviously, if you, like, the point is, like, why do you, like, this assumption that, you know, whatever, or this, just like, I don't know what it is. I don't think it's hereditary, but it's like, it's a cultural thing where, like, whatever the most powerful person says, that's what goes. When it's time to applaud, you applaud. When it's time to laugh, you laugh. Because that's what we do. Because why? Because don't ask questions. Just keep calm and carry on. Just keep calm and do what you're told. And maybe you'll ascend. Maybe you won't. Right? But whatever place you have arrived in your empire, right? Whatever ranking of centurion you are, that's where you deserve to be. Stop asking questions. Follow orders. And so I feel, and so that's a lot of what that, and like Patrick McGowan is later on, and people have, and I was watching like some interviews with him, right? And most of the people are like, is the prisoner about oppressive regimes in the Soviet Union? Is this about Stalin? Is this about communist China and the brainwashing that happens there? Is the prisoner about, is this a prisoner about, a dystopian future where Britain could be ruled by an undemocratic regime? Is this about what America could become? These are the kind of questions everybody asks, right? And then, you know, you can see Robert Good is like, I am disgusted with this deplorable system. And they're like, but I see, it's about someone else. It's about, you know, I don't know, someone that we could become. It's about Republicans that I didn't vote for. It's not my fault. It's about Democrats that I didn't vote for. That's not my fault. It's about, right? And it's like, you know, and you can like, I've actually like some of the interviews, like like this scene is basically happening, and he's like just he's like just kind of amused by it. Or he's just like, oh yes, that's an interpretation. I mean, but he said like the prisoner, like, I'm not gonna give his spoilers, but basically, people are very upset about what is like revealed, right? But and he kind of said, you know, the point of the prisoner is not that you could get whisked away to some island in the middle of just near somewhere in the Mediterranean near the Strait of Gibraltar. This island is a place. He actually visited it on Patrick McGowan. He visited on a trip for shooting Danger Man, and he's like, this is such a beautiful little Mediterranean little town. It's a quaint little town. This would be a perfect set for a show. And he came up with he's like, I want to use this town as this kind of prison because of the kind of place that it is, and it's a perfect place to shoot a show. That was actually part of the actual how the show came to be, and but he's like, the point is not that you could. What if he got we need to stop the British and American citizens from getting taken like Liam Neeson's movie style to some secret place, or what if there's evil agents out there? What if there's supervillains that could be plotting the end of the world, making nuclear weapons? That's not the point, right? That's not the point. But that's what Bond movies, and that's what the world, the propaganda of cop shows like NYPD Blue and such is mirrored by the world propaganda or world police agenda of special agents fiction, right? Because they're like bad boys, what you gonna do, right? Propaganda in America pushes people to propagandizes the masses to side with the authoritarian regime of fake democracies like the US and Britain and the Western countries, capitalist plutocracies, against people they call criminals, which is basically their neighbors, poor people, black, brown, people actually trying to resist that oppressive structure, right? And CIA agenda or MI6 agenda, right, or secret agent agenda is just world police agenda. But it's not just cops beating up on a black kid nicking a pint of milk in front at the 7-Eleven because his kids are starving under a dystopian place called Western countries, and Oakland in particular. The secret agent shows are about arresting entire countries, right, and propagandizing people against, whether it's Russia, China, Iran, Cuba, South Central American countries, or wherever else James Bond is going, right? That's all propaganda too. But it's the international world policing of a racist capitalist empire, rather than the domestic policing of that same empire, right? And so I think Patrick McGowan was also fed up with I don't know all his politics. I haven't read all, but as an Irish guy, it must feel a bit. It just as an artist, as a actor, it must be boring to simply play the same role 56 times. Because he said he did 56 episodes. I think it was over 8 years, almost a decade. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, 56 episodes of saving the world for Britain, right? And he's not even British; he's Irish. A place that colonized Britain for centuries, right? Britain that colonized Ireland for centuries. So it must have been tiring to be like, what am I doing here? I've had that feeling. I was like, I'm going to help make, I work for a nonprofit for a while, but who's dedicated to providing opportunities for all the children of, I'm a native Hawaiian. Speaking of Indigenous, it's actually very similar. I guess I can feel that I guess I have somewhat, feel some sympathy for that because I have a similar situation. I work for a nonprofit organization, or I work for multiple organizations that were dedicated to providing opportunities for every child of Hawaii to live a happy, healthy, productive life. Right? Some plagiarized Bill and Melinda Gates, or some billionaire / philanthropist's foundation slogan, which is itself their own imperial. The nonprofit imperial industrial complex is its own thing, but I was like, I'm going to do great work, and it's not bad work. Obviously, I'm happy with the kids that I helped teaching STEM. That's what Neofeud is partially about, right? Neofeud is partially about being a native Hawaiian, teaching, a slight little mini self advert here, but yeah, that's what Neofeud is. Is a game that's on sale on Steam right now. Every sale does help us out. It's also on sale on itch.io. But it is a game, a dystopic cyberpunk adventure game. Innovative Blade Runner with an overlay of Game of Thrones like political intrigue, etc. But Neofeud is its art, stories, and gameplay are a reflection of my experiences as a STEM teacher for the underserved youth of Honolulu's inner city, teaching robotics, programming, and sustainability is an often difficult, stressful, and even Kafkaesque endeavor, being in one of the most richest, beautiful places on earth, but dealing with families of working parents living out of street, living out of vans, sleeping rough. It's hard to keep kids out of gangs, off of drugs, and on paths towards better opportunities, such as the ones I had growing up in a slum area of paradise, but going to upscale private school. So I made Neofeud to be a fun, engaging game in and of itself, but also to make the player think about the society in which we live, as well as the one which we might be heading to if nothing is done. So Neofeud is also dystopian. I mean, it's like The Prisoner because, again, like it's a colonized person experiencing, like, working with people, but I found the dark side of nonprofit, which is that 99% of the money actually doesn't go to help the kids. A lot of it goes to perpetuate the colonizer's empire in the nonprofit industrial complex, and then they use me as photo ops to make the American colonizers, who are illegal occupiers of Hawaii, right? As a native Hawaiian, I'm being used as a prop to perpetuate my oppressor's empire that's standing on our necks, right? So similarly, I mean, I'm not saying I'm not Patrick McGoohan and I don't know everything about his history, but I just want to say, like, an Irish person who is colonized by Britain being used as a prop, right? Oh, he's being told, oh, you're going to have a great career. You're going to do such great work. You're going to be such an amazing thing. And then you can say all kind of things. Oh, yes. I know you've got lots of stories you want to tell. You absolutely will have input. You will absolutely have creative input into the things you're going to do. Okay, do a whole bunch of shows that make the British Empire that crush your people look good. I mean, I get it. It like in that sense, like that's one. I think that's one reason why I like The Prisoner a lot. From an indigenous perspective, right? It's like, again, being tricked in being pushed or just being misled and brought into this thing of, we're going to all do this great work for America, and which loves Native Hawaiians, and we're all part of this big happy family, and we're all going to help each other out. And it's like, oh, what the fuck? Where's all the money going? Lahaina's burning. Our land's being poisoned. It's $2 million for a house because of American capitalism. And what am I working for? Agencies and organizations that are helping Hawaiians, the nonprofit industrial complex. I was just listening to the Red Nation talking about the trusts and the nonprofits that are part of this global mechanisms of mind control, right? Speaking of prisoners and controlling people, right? Helping Native people, helping Black people, academic foundations, making sure you get on the right junket, making sure you get on the right degrees, the university complex that controls all thought, even rebellious thought is being recontrolled, so that's all written in ways that allows empire to continue its existence, right? The neoliberal, liberal, fox-faced, the Malcolm X's fox in the intellectual world. Even people that call themselves anarchists, Marxists, whatever, themselves are being pushed into a shadow censorship of just simply things not getting published, you not getting invited back to the right conferences, not meeting the right people on LinkedIn, right? Not rubbing the right shoulders with university, with publishers, getting the right funding, getting the right grants, getting the right Indigenous grants. If you say anything too actually radical, you don't get the Indigenous grant, right? That's all part of the prison, right? So I feel like that sense of like, I have been trapped in London. Right? The Prisoner is about the British entertainment industry that's part of the British Empire. Right? Making TV shows about how the British government, the American government, and NATO right, and the U.S. are going around the world just helping Palestinians. Oh, we're just helping Africans. We're just saving them all, right? The CIA. I'm sure that what the CIA, when it goes to Guatemala, when it goes to Venezuela, I'm sure it's just trying to help them out. The MI6 with the United States. I'm sure when British intelligence is giving all kind of information to Israel, they're just trying to help. They're just trying to help out the Palestinians, right? That's what they're doing. When they go and they send their operatives across the world to try to overthrow countries that are getting off from colonization and empire and capitalism, that's just what, right? Danger Man is just to helping you out, right? The secret agent 007 is just around there. They, just like even Black Panther, another example, you make a character that says anything too true, like Killmonger talking about the actual colonization and resistance by all means necessary. Well, he's got to be a bad guy. Ryan Coogler, I'm sorry, he's got to be a bad guy. We can't have real black liberation in the Disney Channel because Disney Channel is part of Hollywood, which is like Patrick McGowan was part of, right? Propagandizing, giving airbrushing to the empire that crushes people. Ryan Coogler is a black man. America is built on black slavery. He has to make shows like Black Panther, right, that say just enough but then pull the punches to empower the white empire of America that crushed the black people. And put in Martin Freeman, the good CIA. When the CIA goes to Africa, right, they're just helping liberate Africa, right? Just like they're doing right now in Nigeria, right? That's what the United States empire is doing, propagandizing everyone. I just heard Holly's mom, not even freaking American. She's Canadian. She's like, oh, it's terrible about that Christian genocide that's happening in Nigeria, right? So you turn on the television, there's TV shows about, they do, right? We're going to go and save the Christians in Nigeria by more interventions, right? That's what Hollywood's for. That's what the British entertainment industry is for. That's what the nonprofit industry in Hawaii was for. Now, you don't learn that until maybe you never learn that because you just stay brainwashed forever or you just stay complicit and a coward forever. I got some of the younger generation is not going the route of their parents and parents' parents, but it's like so if you look at it from that perspective, it's kind of like, I mean, it makes total sense. It's like you're trying to resist. You're trying to no, but of course, if you're an artist, if you're a fiction writer, whether you're trying to write William Gibson neuromancer books, dystopian fiction, or a 1984 books, whether you're making movies, whether you're an actor, whether you are a TV show or a movie actor, you're always stuck in the empire. Well, not you're always stuck in the empire. If you're in an empire, you're stuck in the prison of the colonizers, imperialists machine, right? So I think in one sense, The Prisoner is a show about Patrick McGowan. It's an autobiography, right? Where the director is going, Patrick, okay, now Patrick, you've got to go out there and blow up all the bad guys, and we're gonna intervene in Grenada now, okay? We're gonna keep our Jamaican colonies, okay? Patrick McGowan, we're gonna go do a NATO US-led intervention. So Patrick, go out there and make that African country look bad, so we can go and get rid of Idi Amin, or we can get rid of Sankara. So Patrick, get out there and make them look bad. I mean, the director's not saying that, but he's maybe if you're not a complete fool and you know anything about actual geopolitics and how the world actually works, you'd be like, this is kind of messed up. Why am I making propaganda for this place that's going to do these horrible things to this country in the global south? That is part of The Prisoner, because there is a number two. There is a number two in The Prisoner, right? Who turns against his masters. He's like an example of like the rebellion of youth, and then there's the rebellion of the middle-aged man, right? And the middle-aged man is one of the number twos. That is the prisoner that is entrapping Patrick McGowan's number 6, right? But he joins number 6 by the end, right? But number 2, in his speech, when he gives his speech, right, or one of his lines, and he talks about he does actually get to give a little talk, and he says, I worked for number 1. I work for the man, right? I was responsible for death, for torture. Innocent people died under me. I overthrew democracies, right? I crushed revolts. I crushed rebellions around the world. I number 2, right? And now I spit in the eye of number 1. And there's a point where number 2, he turns to, there's a giant eye that is like representing like the actual number 1, the power you never see, right? And he like physically like spits into the eye of number 1, right? But I mean, if you're paying attention, I mean, like it's to me, it's very clear what was happening. That's like somebody that is trying to bite the hand that's feeding it. I mean, you're like somebody who has gone around the world, right? They tried to crush, right, revolutionary decolonizational resistance in Bolivia, right? I mean, Hugo, whether that's Hugo Chavez in Venezuela, the MAS movement, Movimiento to Socialism, Indigenous-led decolonizational resistance in Bolivia, and Evo Morales. Whether that was, trying to stop Ibrahim Traore right now, he's had so many assassination attempts as he tries to follow in Thomas Sankaра's footsteps. But number 2 in the prisoner says, I have done these things. Right? I have gone around the world and stopped real democracy from happening. And now he's in the farcical village democracy, right? So anyway, so when you look at it from that perspective, it's to me it's pretty clear that like Patrick McGoohan knew what he was doing. The people who are writing it, I mean, maybe not everybody knew what everybody was doing, but that it comes through very clearly to me that like it's almost like an apology. Like, I'm sorry that I made these shows. I did these episodes to give good propaganda to this horrible entity, right? That is the British Empire under the U.S.-led, primacy post World War II. And I, participated in the world police propaganda. I don't know if you ever played a cop on the streets of London or whatever, but I'm sorry that I kind of went along with that because, but now I know that that's what I mean. I participated in the system. I am a prisoner in this prison. I, Patrick McGoohan, have been a prisoner in the imperial military industrial entertainment complex war machine. That grinds people up, grinds them down, and then turns them into dollars, and will grind the whole planet and all the ecosystems in it into dollars. And anyway, so that's one way to look at it. I mean, and so when he actually does the and if you think about it from the perspective of he was in the shows, he got bored. He got bored of playing the same secret agent every single week, right? Being the good CIA of the world. He's the Martin Freeman, right? Right? That's gonna help out Wakanda in Black Panther, just as one example. And then he when he finally went to resign, or he talked about Patrick McGoohan in an interview. He actually talked about how like when he went to the money man, the person that he needs to get the cash from in order to make his shows, he went to him and he said this person is basically illiterate. He said the producer basically doesn't. He said he didn't read anything. He didn't read anything. So Patrick McGoohan's boss will be happy to know that nobody is literate now because generative AI reads everything for them and writes everything for them, including high schoolers that can't write freaking 5 sentences. I just saw like a litany of these high school teachers. So anyway, so being an illiterate CEO, not unlike Elon Musk, as being a illiterate executive, he says, Patrick, I don't read scripts. I'm not going to read your script. And Patrick McGoohan said, I tried to explain the concept of the prisoner. And there's a man he retires from he works for the intelligence agency, he retires, and then he gets kidnapped and taken to this place, this unknown place, where all the doors automatically open. You're always watched 24/7. Everyone acts like everything's normal, but nothing is. There are no names. There are only numbers. Everyone's numbered. I mean, the number 6. I mean, it's 007. He's number 6. Anyway, there's only numbers, and we're all trapped in this, right? in this place. We can't escape. It's the walls. The prison has no visible bars on it. You're free to go. The guards don't all walk around with nightsticks, but the guards are there, right? If you try to leave, you will be stopped, right? And it's and Patrick was trying to explain this to the executive, and the producer said, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know. I don't get this at all. But I like you, Pat. So here's a bunch of money. Go make it. And like you're a big star, so just go make the. He said, and so this illiterate producer, right? But but in that like Patrick was basically resigning, right? He was resigning. I mean, in that sense, like Patrick was the actor in the real world was following number 6 because he was not going to make any more Danger Man. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And like the energy of that is also in the character, right? Which is number 6 resigns from being a secret agent, right? And the thing that the village, right? These masters of the universe, right? That can see and control everyone at all times, right? At one point in the beginning of episode 1, Patrick is the number 6 is talking, and suddenly there's an entire catalog of every single moment of his life, like everywhere he's been. There are images of him, like here's you in Thailand, sleeping. You just met a girl. This lovely girl. Here you look in the camera. You look in the window. And you turn and what's that? What was that sound in the cupboard? Something there? No. And it's like every single moment in his life has been recorded. It's a panopticon kind of element and you see him like looking. You see him like from years ago. Like they have all the images. They've been watching him the entire time. They have all the information on him, right? And they're like, what were you thinking when you were looking into this mirror? What was that? What emotions were going through your mind when you made that expression, right? After you slept with that woman and you were on a job and you had to come back in 2 days back to the London office. What were you thinking at that moment? So that's an important thing too, is because they don't just want what happened, what names, dates. They want everything. They want everything you felt, right? Like AI wants all your expressions, all your art. They want to capture the human soul and inject it straight in and program it into ChatGPT, right? And Sora and be able to pump that out, right? It's like they want total, absolute, complete cataloging of everything in existence so they can control and manipulate and reproduce everything perfectly, right? And so this number 6 says, I'm not giving you anything, right? But you're missing one detail. The time of my birth was 4:35 a.m., right? And it's like duly noted, right? Just to kind of like poke a hole in them and say like your information isn't complete, right? So they're trying. What they really want is why did you resign? Right? Just tell us, why did you resign? Every episode of The Prisoner, all 17 of them. Also, somebody said like this show could have gone on for. It's interesting people's reactions in the 1970s. I watched people's reactions in the 60s. I watched like a 35-minute discussion on a Californian college campus in the 1970s, and I watched like people's reaction like 15 years ago, and then 5 years ago, and now. It's interesting how not everybody's the same, obviously, but different peoples from different places, the reactions have really evolved and changed. Or like they're very different, right? Some people say like, oh, this show probably could have gone on for 30, 40 episodes, but they had to cut it off at 17. That's why the ending was so rushed. Somebody recently posted that, and I was like, in 1970, Patrick McGowan said, this show, I only planned it for, it couldn't go more than 7 episodes. I had a 7 episode show that I wanted to say what I had to say, and it would be done, and then that would be it. And the producer, he wanted 26, right? So that the illiterate, didn't read a single pay stub or receipt or, Catcher in the Rye. The producer that was giving the money, he wanted 26 episodes. So Patrick McGowan said, they wanted a 26 episode show. And I said, no, I don't want to do it. this show doesn't have enough material to sustain for 26 episodes. Like it's designed to be a self-contained like 7-episode show that makes a particular point, right? That Patrick was like a one. He originated the idea, and there's other writers that wrote for it too, and but he's like this idea is gonna it's gonna have an arc, and it's gonna take that's about how long it's gonna take. And so the producer said, no, you got to make 26 episodes. I mean, 26 episodes is half a year, right? It's like 1 week times 1 episode a week times 6 months. It's a 26 episodes, 52 weeks in a year, right? Approximately. So like that's we want to. Patrick, you've got to keep everyone entertained so that they can't be thinking and reading books like I don't do and learning the truth about the world. You got to keep everyone entertained and keep their butts planted in front of the television, being propagandized about how the British Empire is so awesome. Patrick, what are you talking about? You can't just be giving 7 episodes. You can't be like making statements. You can't be like saying interesting things, Patrick. This is television. This is entertainment. This is Western media we're talking about here. We're not here to. We're not writing manifestos. What if you want to be a communist? Go to communism. Go to some communist country and starve to death, Patrick. No, he didn't say that. But so Patrick was finally the executive relented, and he said, okay, fine, 7. But later on, he said, okay, Patrick, we're going to need at least 10 more. Right? So it went from 7 to 17. So towards the end, some of the like last few episodes, it gets a bit, and Patrick even said, oh, well, yeah, we spent about 3 days writing, Living in Harmony, which is a Western show. There's one that's like a Western show. There's one that's like a weird fairy tale James Bond villain thing called The Girl Who Was Death. That one's kind of fun. They get really kind of silly and wacky towards the end. Almost like Scooby-Doo shit. But it's like it's a 60s Scooby-Doo shit, Scooby-Doo episode. Not quite that cartoonish, but like it's like there's a Western. They recreate an entire Western cowboy set. And Patrick is like, I never got them to be in a Western, a cowboy film or TV show. So you got to do that episode. And it's like it's not the strongest episode. It was written pretty quickly, but I mean, it is also entertaining. But it's also like he wasn't planning to make the 10 more episodes, right? So he's kind of like, we had to just kind of fill. We did have to fill. Not because he wanted to do filler, but because the executives demanded over twice as many episodes as he was planning, right? So, I mean, if you think of it that way, because again, this is one thing where modern audiences have it, like, it's a different sensibility, right? But it's like, I didn't plan to do that. If you think about it as like, oh, you're just making filler episodes because you ran out of material. No, it's like, the show had a beginning and a middle and an end that I had planned out, and then they forced me to make up these episodes. It's like the executives. It's kind of like the Steam that got rid of Blood Fresh Supply, which people had paid for, which is a remake of a 1990s video game called Blood, and they deleted it off of all these platforms. Not Steam's fault necessarily. It's actually the big corporation, Microsoft's fault, that they deleted the remake that was like a reasonable price off of everyone's accounts, and then they launched a new remake called Refresh Supply that cost twice as much and pissed everyone off, right? It's not necessarily people who, it was not like Night Dive Studios. This is a video game, I know, but this is not Night Dive Studios' fault that like this product that's come out is so overpriced and they lost the other product, right? It's really the corporation that took over and like forced this down. The corporation that took over the creative team's work and had forced this down everyone's throat. So similarly, The Prisoner having 17 episodes, if they probably could have got away with just if they lost like probably 4 or 6 of the episodes, it probably would have been a better show. But like because the corporate executives demanded 10 more episodes, 17 instead of 7, arguably it made the entirety of the show is not quite as tight. It's not quite as, it has the weaker parts, and it's not quite as it's not quite it's not saying not quite as good, but the total average quality of all the episodes is down, right? The GPA of the show dropped. It would have been like, 3.8 or a 4, and the GPA dropped to like 3.2, right? Or like a 2.9. It got a B minus overall, maybe. Because the executives just forced you to cook up a whole bunch of episodes really fast too. So that, like, and so that's another, that's the prison. Like that is the prison, right? Is like, I want to make a statement, and I want to say what I have to say, right? Like that is also this, right? I have something, like Patrick's like, I have something to say. I don't know exactly. Some of these things I'm reading these things in. I'm sure I'm reading some things in. Patrick McGowan and his team didn't want to say all these things. But if Patrick's like, I want to make a statement about the British intelligence and about the British entertainment industry. I want to make a statement about control and this complicity and this placidity and the lack of real resistance against the real evils inside of our United Kingdom, and I want to make these statements, and I want to say them, and then I want to be done when I'm done with my statement, right? And the I every time we try to start is you can read that as also as the executives in the entertainment industry going like, well, Patrick, that's interesting you want to say that, but we want to have 17 episodes. Patrick, it's interesting you want to make a very concise clear and concise statement that critiques the fraudulent democracies. There's an entire episode. I mean, some episodes are freaking brilliant. Like, there's one that's just like all about the fraudulent democracy, where people are being told to vote for candidate A or candidate B, but everyone is like clapping when a sign is held up for them. Okay, clap for candidate A. Okay, candidate B is going to be the rebellious outsider, right? And they're like, okay, now raise your fist for candidate B. Okay, say you want anarchy. Ready, set. Applause for anarchy. Okay, ready? Throw your Molotov cocktail. Here's your Molotov cocktail. Throw it. It like, they don't exactly do it, but it's like everyone is told it's rebellion time. Okay, and the number 2 is like, yes, Patrick, we really need you to show up, so it'll give our vibrant democracy here in the prison. I'm sorry, the village. People need to know that they have options. And Patrick's like, what about number 1 though, right? We can vote for number 2, or we can vote for me, but what about number 1? And he's like, Patrick, it's like number 6, just help us have a really vibrant democracy. Like, I don't know, when I was watching it, I'm like, did most people just, did that like all, they're like, oh my, in the Soviet Union they probably have fake democracy. Oh, in Iran, everyone is like forced to vote for the Shah. Oh, in communist China, everyone, or I don't know, somewhere else, right? Oh, it's so terrible that some places in the world, that the CIA and the British intelligence hasn't overthrown yet. They have to suffer just like the villagers in the prisoner. Oh, it's so sad that they don't have real democracy like we do in Britain, in America. And it's like, I'm sure that's like most of the people. That's Patrick like fucking getting more mad. His character just gets madder and madder and madder, because he's like, no, you have to actually revolt. You have to actually rebel. And it's like, yes, we're rebelling. They're like, yes, painting we're painting on the walls. Everyone take your British government issued graffiti spray paint can and do a Banksy. Yes, it's Banksy time. Oh, don't forget, make a little balloon, right? Put the little Palestinian child. Yes, okay, we're all rebelling. Yes. Are we rebelling correctly? Let's queue up for the rebellion line. It's like, and then number 6 is like, no, you're like, do you have any thoughts in your head? You're going to sit here. You choose to stay in your prison and rot. like cabbages in the dark. There's a great line. It's like you're like cabbages rotting in the dark. And it was like, oh dear, Patrick, calm down, Irishman. Oh, you're being so uncivil, black person. Oh, don't ask for too much, indigenous person. Just calm down and take your allotted rebellion package and take out your glue on mohawk. Take out your mohawk cap and put it on. Okay? Now run around. Take your government issued electric guitar and your government issued spike collar and play the punk music just like the government told you to. Okay, here's your fist. Here's your government assigned fist. Okay? And here's your government assigned land of hypocrisy. Okay? Now raise the fist on cue. Raise your fist in the air in the land of hypocrisy. And cheer for Zach de la Roca. Yes? Ready? Set? Fist in the air for the land of hypocrisy. Okay, now put your hand back down. I mean, like, I'm that doesn't obviously literally happen to Prisoner, but that's like what is happening, right? And then it's funny because then you watch him like go to talking to audiences. I mean, white obviously for the most part, right? And everyone is like, not everyone, but you see so many people. When Patrick McGowan is doing events in America, in Britain, in Canada, and he's like giving the same look as number 6. And he's like, I'm still in the prison. Because the prison was always all of, the society. It is, but people like physically threatened his life. Because they say it's because the prisoner never gave the audience the answers, right? But the thing is, the prisoner did give the audience the answer. It did. It gave the audience it did. I mean, to me, it was fucking clear. Maybe it's because I'm a native person. Maybe because I'm an indigenous person under a colonizing empire. I'm like, oh, of course. It's like, you can watch it yourself. But like, it was so clear. It was obvious. But what the audience, I mean, in fact, he's later on said, of course, well, it's the prison we're always in the prison. You walk outside, you pay your, he says, I almost feel like the Matrix Wachowskis, when they say, the Matrix is everywhere, right? The Matrix is everywhere. It's, it's when you help your land, what is it? Or Agent Smith, there's a line where he's like, it's in the air you breathe and the food you eat, right? When you help you help your landlady take out your garbage, Smith says that. When you pay your taxes, right? And like, there's a line that Patrick McGowan has said that, like, when you pay your taxes, when you walk down the streets, right? When you're going to the park, right? When you're seeing a movie in the theater, when you're going to work, when you're playing, you're in the prison. You're always in the prison because this is the prison, right? And then, but people don't want to hear. They just don't or can't hear that. Like a lot of people just like couldn't deal with it, and they like physically like threatened his whole family over him and his whole family over it. And it's like, but the thing is, he did say, like, I knew that this is what would happen. I knew that I would get some kind of reaction like that. And he's like, I'm overjoyed that I got, as like I said earlier, I think he said, like, I was overjoyed that it got such a good reaction. Now, he didn't say everything, all the words that I said. Like, he wanted to incite a rebellion in Britain. Even if it was calling for his head rather than the heads of the unjust leaders of Britain. But it was like, anyway, so long story short, so it's, there's many levels to it. Like, nobody has to interpret it the way that I'm interpreting it. And, it's been said that, like, there's many ways to interpret it. I mean, that's a good way to say that, like, the things I was saying with this piece of art, you can't handle the truth. To quote Jack Nicholson, you can't handle the truth of what I was saying with this piece of art. So I'm just gonna say that you can interpret it however you want. I mean, it's also like it's just obviously in a universal sense, yeah, in an absolute general sense, everybody is gonna interpret everything differently. Everybody has a different perspective, but like, I feel like if you are not a indigenous person, if you're not, or if you're not a person that is under some kind of colonial oppression of some kind, you're not going to be able to interpret. I shouldn't say you're not going to be able to, but like you're going to have a different perspective than maybe, or if you have a different history, if you have a very different history and a very different life experience to the showrunner, you're not ever going to really maybe fully get what he meant. You know what I mean? You're going to get something. You can get something. I'm sure you get something. You'll be entertained, I'm sure, probably. Unless you don't like, you don't like secret agent stuff and you don't like dystopian fiction, maybe you won't be entertained. But if you do, you're going to get something. But what you're going to interpret is not going to be maybe exactly what it was meant. Anyway, okay, so I've been going on at length. I got to wrap this up. It's mostly not about Pluribus. I'm sorry, but I have so much to say about the prisoner show. I could probably go on for even longer than that. I certainly could. I didn't talk about any. I didn't talk about very much of the specific episodes, but yeah. So it really is like a show that I recommend everybody to watch. I'm trying not to spoil it as much as I can. I know I probably gave a little bit of away. It is free on YouTube, and yeah, it does have a lot of interesting things to say. Oh man, I could go off for like 2 hours on any one of that. Like probably like 2/3 of the episodes, I could probably make a whole video just on that one episode. The democracy one. This democracy is a farce. There's one about courts. There's one about it almost feels like a Silver Spook stream sometimes when I'm watching it. Is there one about Silver Spook stream with a $2 million budget, shot in a near Morocco island bucolic town. Democracy episode. There's one about courts and the farce that is the lie that is the court system. There's one about education and schooling, and the brainwashing that it is, and just the just memorizing these dates and names, and then there's also like artificial intelligence being used to just like teach kids. Obviously they didn't know about ChatGPT, or probably couldn't have predicted those things, but like. There's a giant like a vacuum tube 1960s machine that's like just being used to like inject British history, social studies, and all this stuff into people's minds, that to control them and manipulate them. I mean, it's doing a lot of things, right? And a lot of people probably didn't pick up on what exactly it was saying in a lot of these moments, or if they picked up. What they picked up was that this is some kind of future society, or some kind of other society, or somewhere else could have these problems, But they're really problems that's about, Western countries, like the UK, and so yeah, but yeah, there's so much could be said about those. There's one where he tries to escape, but he gets brought back. Actually, and like it's weird how like people are like. I'm like, because like when I listen to the interview, when Patrick McGowan is talking about what things mean and what he meant in this, I'm like, when the things he's saying is mostly I got it. Like what he said. There's parts where like there's the butler, right? The butler that goes everywhere, and there's a scene where the butler, right, walks up to an apartment in London, and the door opens automatically. I'm like, oh yeah, obviously that's because London is the prison too, right? Everywhere is the prison. Everywhere is that's the point. But the audience and like reviewers are like, what does what does this mean? does this mean that the village was trying to trick the butler, or and it's like, no, I mean, it's almost like people like are afraid to accept like what that actually means, right? Which is that, like, the prison is everywhere. It's not just some place that outside of the US and the UK that could be bad. It's like it's everywhere, right? You're in it right now, right? And so anyways, yeah, so I did like that. Anyway, let me get on to Pluribus just at least a little bit. So Pluribus is a show, though, that I've made a few videos on, so I won't spend too much on it. But I do want to say something about this last episode of the season, and the show of course in general is a really good show. It's a really entertaining show. It is dystopian science fiction. It's got Soylent Green elements to it. I went and rewatched Soylent Green over the last couple months too. It's got Soylent Green. It's got Body Snatchers, Send-Ups. It's got the Twilight Zone in particular. Was the Third from the Sun episode elements to it. Contact. There's actually I feel like I've talked about this before. There's like a direct like Contact. Jodie Foster listening for radio frequencies from another star system with a giant radio telescope arrays. There's and also like listening for the frequencies, listening for sounds on this advanced frequency, advanced kind of radio that can tune into a whole wide range of frequencies like that. There's 10 minutes of at least 10 minutes is a big focal part of the movie Contact. And so this all this Contact is more just straight sci-fi. It's not so much dystopian sci-fi, but so I really like Pluribus as well. Let me just get into that. And the Pluribus, the final season though, right? The final episode of the first season has this section, which is in an indigenous village. And I obviously, if you want more of my overall impressions and responses, and improvised video essays, because I'm too busy doing the art programming, writing, half the voice acting and music for the dystopian science fiction video game Neofeud 2. But I have Soylent Blue I have 2 videos already on Pluribus. So obviously I must like it enough. I like it enough that this will be the 3rd video I'm making on it in the last 2 months. So I have one on Soylent Blue, Pluribus, Each Malthusianism, and what does a body good? That was from about a month ago. And then I also have one from earlier called Pluribus, Ragged Individualism, and Hive Community and Hive Mind. So so I think actually like my commentary now does relate to this video as well. I talked about the difference between individualism, like there being individualism, community, right? Which, on the surface seems antithetical or the opposite of individualism, but actually community requires a certain amount of individualism within it, in a positive way, right? People need to be individuals within differentiated individuals within a group to make up a strong community. A successful, healthy community has individuals in it. And again, this is obviously from a native perspective too. So, which is because, we'll get into that, but and how hive minds, right, and the concept of the hive mind itself, is or hive minds themselves. I mean, because there are no real world human hive minds. Okay, so if multiple or all of humanity on this planet, 8 billion people, were joined into a hive mind, we don't know what that would be like. Okay, so that is actually like completely speculative. That's straight science fiction. We don't know what that would actually be like. Um, so it's speculation, it's imagination, right? And then people imagine things, and that's fine. But like, and I made this video I made up. I'm not trying to go into all of this, but like how hive minds are not the same thing as community, right? Or like everyone thinking a strong community is not everyone thinking exactly the same thing or everyone having one mind, right? I mean, this is a very common trope. This is a very common concept and element in Western science fiction and dystopian fiction. Obviously, obviously like Body Snatchers is part of that and deals with hegemony and incorporating people into one ideology. Obviously, communism and capitalism in that time. Or the Borg, the Zerg in StarCraft is in a video game. Everyone being one, right? And hive minds and communism have been like Ayn Rand's Anthem, right, which is a famous anti-communist, pro-capitalist work written by a defector, right, from the East to the West, about the one individual against all of a communistic society that doesn't have the word I, right? And so there's a history in books, in TV, and movies in certainly Western countries about this negative, like the hive mind itself is the dystopia in a lot of Western science fiction, right? To become part of the Borg is the bad, wrong, terrible thing, right? To become part of this one group, right? The Pluribus is from E Pluribus Unum, right? Which is it's a Latin phrase from many one on the back of the American money and American coins in particular. And so that's kind of like the horror of it. It's like, oh, we're all going to be from Pluribus one, and we're all going to become one. And that's kind of that has been a fear in a lot of this fiction. But a community, and then so how like community is not the same though, right? As everyone being identical part of one hive mind, is right? Or like in a community, if everyone is and does exactly the same and nobody has any difference, because another thing is part of Pluribus is everyone is happy, everyone is smiling and happy all the time, right? And there's no problems, right? And we just kind of, right? But the thing is, communities have problems, communities have disagreements, right? And so like, and part of it is because, obviously you can't stop and look at this from the Western American, again, societies, viewing, at least in, there's some truth to this, but certainly internally, the United States, right? It's in Ayn Rand, it's in Anthem. It's in like TV shows, right? They're talking about communism was everybody is this, everyone is there's a I think it's Girl Meets World, in this American TV show, where communism in this classroom, in communism, everyone is the same, right? Because everyone gets exactly the same grade. Everyone gets a C for communism because we're all common, right? And it's like in this, like in the last 30 years, this American TV show. I'm not saying like that's, but like this was in the show and it was not like questioned. It's just like this. That's why it's a problem. And so nobody gets an A and nobody gets an F. We're all the same in communism, right? And we're all the same people. None of us are individuated. We're all in Ayn Rand's Anthem, right? We're all in the Borg. We're all in the hive mind. We're all in Starship Troopers Arachnid Army, which is also a metaphor for Eastern communist countries, etc., that the U.S. and the West were invading and blowing up. Vietnam, Korea, obviously attacking, trying to sack the revolutionary hub of Beijing, coming for all of communism in the Soviet Union as a whole, which is all this insectile scourge, right? Like everyone was being infected, right, from this central the queen bee was a Beijing and a Moscow that was infecting all of Asia, this giant continent. Everyone's coming down like so. This and that's the way it was like depicted. I'm not saying that's the way it is. I'm saying that's the way that the Western world and also Western science fiction has depicted hive minds, collectives, and communism in general, right? Even to this day, they still do these kinds of things. And so, so in this video, I talk about how like we're, hive minds, that collectivity, and whether that's indigenous collectivity, communities in general, or communities in communism, or peoples and human groups of humans that have worked collectively, do not all have the same personality. They have differences, right? When without the differences, the communities can fall apart because, well, if people don't have disagreements internally, like I gave many examples in this video, like the whole system would work if everyone simply went along, right? Like, I mean, again, coming back to the prisoner, right? See, the prisoner, arguably, a lot of Western society is more hive mind than indigenous communities, communist countries, socialist countries, and native peoples villages, right? It's actually, again, the prison of London and LA, that's more the hive mind, or New York, that's the hive mind, where everyone is seeking the same thing. Everyone looks down when the problems happen, right? Everyone keeps calm and carries on in the dystopia that they live in, right? Just seeking, right? Everyone is an individual with the Coke or Pepsi flavor, with the same cookie cutter suburban house, aspiring to be part of the same empire, to follow their orders, right? To rebel in the right way. I was just talking to Hollywood, talking about like, there's so many people that come from the United States that they try to be different in Hawaii. Like, I am doing hippiness the right way, and they look at each other like, you're not doing rebellion right. They literally do that. Even the British and Americans, it's all white Western imperial capitalist colonizer culture, right? It's like, you rebel with your assigned, Gwyneth Paltrow brand, right? Hippie milkshake, hippie spirulina smoothie that costs $700, right? You rebel the way you are assigned to, and that's part of the point of the prisoner as well, right? It's like, right? And so anyway, so that the hive mind, like, people like dressing in like, I don't know, brown and having red stars on their flags. Not everybody in a communist country or socialist country with a communist party dresses identically. That's also a lie. Everything isn't all just because Western TV shows put like a gray desaturated filter on all of Russia, to signify everything is the same and droll and dreary and bad, right? That's the propaganda too. Just like, I'm 007 saving the world, right? So this idea, so that's why I'm saying, like, the idea of communism as everyone's the same, everyone looks down, everyone does the same thing, everyone has the same grade, right? That is just a propaganda about those societies. But that also, right, infiltrates and it has infected everything. And obviously, the writers of Pluribus, I mean, as far as I see, there's Vincent Gilligan, and there's several other writers, but a lot of them are white. Some of them are Hispanic. Some of them are like Brazilian. I was trying to look into some of their backgrounds, but the lead writer and a lot of the other ones, they have a North American white upper middle class perspective. A lot of them worked on Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, which is, that's fine. Nothing wrong with working on those shows, but like, there is, I talked about this in this video, that like, it doesn't really have a full global perspective in that sense. I mean, it does deal with the whole planet. It's limited to certain subsections of North America and certain perspectives from South America, which is they're not illegitimate perspectives, but the showrunner is definitely North American. He's definitely North American. He's a Gen X white guy, and and there's some input, but it's still, you can kind of feel the perspective coming through at certain parts of the show, and I talked about that in this episode. But that's where before I wrap this up, I got to at least talk a little bit about this, from an Indigenous perspective. There is a bit of Pluribus where where'd that image go? Where in the last episode of season 1, where they show. Why am I not getting this? Okay, so in the last episode, they show Kusumayo, the opening sequence. Am I gonna get it or not? Sorry, I'm just like waiting, but it's not giving me. Oh, I see. It's just giving me ads. Okay. There's a scene where the opening sequence reintroduces us to Kusumayo, an indigenous Peruvian woman from the Andes Mountains who seems to be the youngest of the immune survivors. We know that the others have been offering survivors the opportunity to join them, but they have to consent to the procedure first. It makes sense that Kusumayo opts in for 2 reasons. She's young and impressionable, and she's part of a culture that values community more than American-style rugged individualism. And so here's another part where I was I'm kind of bringing this up, right? And I'm not saying that like this is one of my problems with one of my, again, I think Pluribus is a good show, but this is one of my critiques, not necessarily of the show, or I guess maybe, but like, there's a scene in Air Force One, right, where we have Carol in the American Air Force One with the giant American symbol behind her, right, kind of leading and telling everyone else like how things are going to go. There's Asians, there's an Indian woman, Chinese, I think it's Mongolian person, African person, and then there's a girl from South America. She's an indigenous girl from South America, somewhere in the Peruvian mountains. And that's Kusumayo. That's the little girl on the right, and she's telling them all like how things are going to go and how we have to stop this. We have to undo everything that's happened. We have to stop this hive mind, this joining of the minds, the plurbing, the joining of all the human minds together, and everyone else. One of the things that was weird in this episode was like, why is, because it's like, if suddenly everyone on the earth suddenly fused together, obviously that is, something has gone really wrong, right? So something has drastically changed. It is some kind of alien invasion of some kind. It is an invasion because this is coming from a signal from outer space that beamed down, the DNA sequences of the various deoxyribonucleic acids in the quaternary information that was received to create an alien organism, right? It's an alien virus that has infected everybody, and now everyone is warped and completely, changed. They're not who they were before. And like almost 1 billion people died. Like a lot of the world has been completely thrown into chaos. It's an apocalypse, right? And then everyone who is not a Western white person in this, which is everyone except Carol, is again like just, they're like too okay with everything. That's just the way it is. Like they're like, everyone is just going along with it. It's only Carol, and like, I would say like there's some self-awareness, because this is a North American, it's a North American made show, North American showrunner, coming out on Apple. And so it's like, yes, America can be abrasive and kind of just, talking everyone else down and like taking control of the room. And Carol is not the most likable person, which is, again, people said like, you don't need to have, protagonists of shows always be the most likable people. That's kind of immature to expect that always, which is fine. Again, the prisoner Patrick McGowan, you might not want to spend a lot of time with this number 6 because he can be kind of a dick. he can get in your face. You know, he'll be like telling you what's up. Like he doesn't take kindly. He can be kind of you know, he is a rebellious guy. He is a very, so I mean, his personality is not necessarily the most likable. I mean, that's part of why he is so resistant, and they have such a hard time breaking him. Like they torture him, they do all kind of things to him. Right? It's actually, that's one similarity between Pluribus and Prisoner, other than them being dystopian science fiction, is their main characters again are extremely stubborn. They can be very rude, they can be very punchy, they can be very upsetting. They upset lots of people, right? There, you know, he's always got this expression, like he's looking through his eyebrows, like he's always like making this, like he's always got like an angry bull look to him, right? Because he's always angry, or he's often angry, or justifiably, of course. It's really, the question is, why isn't everybody else angry, right? So, but similarly, right? Like so in The Prisoner, he's like, why aren't you all like why don't you all break out of the prison? Why aren't you all also rebelling with me? Like that's why we're stuck here. If we all got together, if we all rose up, if we all fought the power, there's more than us than there are of number 2 and number 1. There's like one number 2 and there's one number 1. That's 2. That's not very many, right? But it's everyone. That's everyone. Patrick McGowan has just straight up said it. I know I keep coming back to it, but he said in an interview, he's like, well, I mean, technology is accelerating. It's being used in so many ways. We're not analyzing and using it properly. Wars are being pushed around the world, and you know, if everybody in, you know, our countries, and obviously he's talking about, you know, U.S. and the UK, etc., is like, if all of our people rose up and revolted, then, you know, we could stop this, but none of you want to do that, so I guess I'm gonna be over here, you know, fucking, I don't know, making TV shows about you all not revolting. In America, in Britain, in Canada, overthrowing your governments and fucking stopping imperialism and capitalism and abuse of the whole freaking world and burning of the planet. You know, he basically said that, right? And everybody like looked at him and they said, oh, bother. So you're like, but you know, but like, anyway. So my point is that like, you know, now I feel like it works in the Prisoner because of, again, like how that the people in the prison are, no, they're not all necessarily British, you know, but they're basically all Europeans of some kind. They're all somebody that came from some kind of a Western country, intelligent agent. Some of them are Navy admirals, so the British Royal Navy is one of them. He plays chess with them all the time. But you know, they're all members of, you know, these deplorable imperialistic, actually authoritarian governments like the British, the French, the Americans, the Canadians. That's the, you know, Italian. There's some of them are from Central Europe, South Europe, Western Europe, you know, that's mostly who it is. So it makes a lot of sense, you know, that, you know, and he's like, what is wrong with you all? The Irishman, it's, you know, remember when it's like, remember when it's like, okay, so who will stand up for the people being, you know, who will stand up for Palestine? Britain sitting down, Germany sitting down, France, twiddling thumbs, right? Portugal, directly, you know, it's like Spain. It took a while, it's a little bit, but you know, it's still not all in it. Still used as an air base to send material to, you know. And then Ireland was the place that was like, really, I mean, inside of the European context, it's Ireland that was really like, we have to stand up for what's right. We have to down with this imperialism everywhere. You know, they had Claire Daly, right? And the Prisoner is kind of like that. It's like, oh, because I think Danger Man worked for NATO, right? NATO, what, you're the free world, you know, Ursula von der Nazi, what you've got over here, you've got Keir Starmer, unalive children Starmer, you've got Macron, Mr. Banker, a-hole man, you've got, like, what free world, right? What free world, like, right? I mean, if you look at it that way, it's like the Prisoner is like, Why don't you all do what's right? Stop taking money from the frickin' Zios. Be free countries. Stop imprisoning people who are resisting literal frickin' genocide. And the Europeans, rest of Europe's like, oh, what are we supposed to do? Right? I mean, they could look at it that way, and it's like it's very clear what's going on. Even this setup of this scene, it's like, are we going to stand up for what we believe in, or are we going to all just, twiddle our thumbs, collect our paychecks, and be prisoners of the oligarchy? Is that what we're going to do? And everyone's like, oh, well, yes, I think that's what we're doing. Anyway, so that's what I'm saying is like, it makes sense. It makes sense in that context. I shouldn't say it makes sense. Like I feel it's stronger in this context of the prisoner. That kind of this, we need to stand up and we need to fight against this homogenizing, controlling force. In Pluribus, actually, I feel like that's part of the I don't know. Patrick McGood is a Native American or Native Hawaiian or Native person in the global South, but you feel there's a different perspective though, right? In Pluribus, it's like, what are we gonna do to stand up to this alien virus that's mind melding us all together and it's destroying humanity, right? But it's Asia, it's Africa, and it's the indigenous peoples of the Americas are the ones that are like, oh well, I just I kind of like being colonized. It's like what? Like I don't know. It's very white. It's very Caucasian. It's just like I don't know what that's why it's what is it that's wrong about this scene? I was telling. It's not just this one scene. It's when it comes to this kind of thing, like the global context, it's like, something is wrong with that, It's like, I don't think that this is how things would go. Like, who resists colonization? Okay? Is it the Europeans? Is it upper class, wealthy white women from freaking Albuquerque or California that demand a shopping? Is that right? Right? Like again, right? If you look at these two scenes, that actually gives you a little bit of a difference, right? It's like one of them is like, let's all stand up in the EU, and everybody else is like, and the one Irishman is like, let's stand up to oppression, and then the rest of the Europeans are like, no. Versus the EU, NATO is like, let's stand up to oppression, and Africa, Asia, Latin America is like. You know what I'm saying? I think that's kind of what it is. It's like it's almost like if Guillermo del Toro had directed, because he also has the global South perspective. He has a different perspective. He's not a norteamericano. He's not a norteamericano of los imperialistas, los Estados Unidos de imperialismo. So, Guillermo del Toro, if he directed, because he made Pacific Rim as another good example of that, where it's like NATO is walling itself off and doing nothing, running away from the problems. And, right, it's Russia and China, right? It's actually a lot of the global South that's coming together, with some rogue Americans, and Idris Elba is like the rogue Brit. He's kicked out of it. I think he's not really in good standing with them, right? It's the rogue American and the Brit, and then China and Russia are like hosting, and they putting all the money and the resources up to make the Jaegers to fight the kaiju, right? But that's because Guillermo del Toro is not an Anglo-Saxonoid from Los, he's not, you know what I'm saying? And so if Guillermo del Toro had directed this scene, like a lot of Prisoner might still be this. A lot of Pluribus might still be the same. You could have the alien signal. You could have the discussion about what it means to be a hive mind, what it means to be in a collective, human isolation, human loneliness, right? Fitting in versus being part of the group, the problems of being part of the group, the problems with and the positives about being part of group, the problems of individuality and the positives of it, But then when it comes to this, it would maybe, I feel like Guillermo del Toro, it would go differently. You know what I mean? It would be like, like I don't think like because all right, this is a perfect example, right? Yeah, like China didn't stand idly by when the kaiju showed up to destroy the world. From when it was a Latin American, a non-white person directing, right? A global South person directing Pacific Rim. When it's a privileged white American, China is the one like being a coward, slowing off the responsibility, or is just that's a perfect, just a counter. That's like the way that it's portrayed is like, yes, America has some warts and has some problems, but like at the end of the day, we're all gonna have to get behind Captain America because individualism, that rugged individualism that the Chinese, they just don't got it. The Africans, they just don't got it. South America, they, the South Americans that I know that are good friends with, like Manusos, they got it. But the indigenous people of South America, they're all going to get absorbed by the hive mind. They don't got it. Indigenous people, they don't got it. You got to have Uncle Yankee, I don't know, but that's like what it feels like. Maybe he doesn't exactly, but it's kind of like that's the whiteness coming through. That's the white. Wait, that's the, if it were, in a hypothetical situation where there was an authoritarian regime where horrible, evil, rich people controlled the society and was making everyone into like this hive mind, we're all fucking go to Starbucks and McDonald's and then support blowing up of innocent children. I would stand up to such a society like the one I fucking live in. What have you done to stand up in that society, right? Nicola Coughlan. Like what Norte Americanos, what white people in Hollywood and entertainment have stood up for Palestine? Like the Irish, like a handful of them. And Nicola, I'm trying to think of it, like barely any. It's like Nicola Coughlan again. It's like Irish again, right? And then the Crickets, with very few far between voices wanting to say anything. I mean, this is one. This is one of many things, right? But it's kind of this. Anyway, so let's wrap this up. Okay, so anyways, there is something sinister about them, and impeccably finally. But so what I want to say was that Kusumayu, they say, she's young and impressionable, and she's part of a culture that values community over American-style rugged individualism, right? So if you're saying that, so rugged individual. See, this is one of the things that I find it a bit interesting. If rugged individualism, I was joking. I said ragged, right? If rugged individualism is what is going to save the world, right? Then Pluribus is kind of pushing towards it is a very pro-American, pro-Western, pro-capitalistic ultimately, because it's an anti-collective, anti-communistic. Unfortunately, it's starting to push more in that direction, which makes sense because most of the writers of this upper class, privileged Gen X white people. And that's unfortunate, but it's still a good show, but it's just you gotta be aware, which that's part of what I feel is coming through. As an indigenous person under the U.S. illegal colonial occupation of Hawaii, I don't appreciate it that the indigenous person is just going to go along with a bunch of colonizer invaders. She is young. That's fair. But again, every single actually colonized person in Pluribus, with the exception of Manusos, I guess. But all the rest of the world is just immediately going along with the hive mind. Basically, they're just going along with it. There is some nuances to that later on, but it's kind of where Diabate is we know a lot about what's happening with them because we've been associating, we've been talking to them. A lot of us have been around this collective, right? But then it's and like around episode 5, 6, it's like, oh, maybe Carol was wrong, right? But then by the end, it's like, no, Carol was Carol was right, and also now of course Menusos is more staunchly individualistic, right? Or yeah, like so, and so if it's just like, well, Carol's individualism is what's needed, but she just needs to be even more individual. Her problem is she's not individualistic enough, right? Like Menusos, which is weird. It's sometimes it's a little bit like all over the place. Now, one thing is that there are several writers that's writing. Like I did like the part where Menusos talks about like, you're not from here, you're from another world. I talked about that in the previous Pluribus video. You're not from here, you're from another world. You can't give me anything because everything you have is stolen. And like, I mean, that certainly like resonates as from an indigenous person's perspective. Everything America has, America can't give Hawaiians, right, an opportunity to live a better life because America stole all of our land, all of our people, our country, which had the world's first universal healthcare, the highest literacy rate on the planet in the 1800s, and it stole all of our ability to provide for ourselves, which we were doing better than America was when it stole our country. So America can't in this. So I appreciate that line from that episode that Menuso speaks to the hive mind. I feel like part of it is there's a little bit of the writers' room has privileged upper middle class North Americans, and then it has other South Americans. There's a Venezuelan writer. Now of course you could be Marco Rubio is also from the Central America, right? And he's fucking running the fucking State Department. So I don't know what kind of Venezuelan. There's a Brazilian writer. As far as I know, there's a Brazilian, there's Venezuelan. So that's where it gets a little bit. Things get a little bit, jumbled up there. I'm not sure what is going on with this, like what exactly it's trying to say in some of these parts. So I was kind of like flip back and forth with that. I kind of like hold on. I mean, the show is still good. I'm not saying the show is bad, but like if I get in my indigenous perspective, like this scene still troubles me. The way that I'm trying to get a scene from like this scene was very good. I mean, I like this scene where Kusumayo, as I have it in the original in the thumbnail, where she's an indigenous girl from, and the actress is also indigenous. So at least they got an actual indigenous actress to play this indigenous character, as far as I know, who is Quechua. I think they're speaking Quechua, if I'm not mistaken. Wait. And the scene where she's in the village, she's in all of her people are with her, but they're all in the hive mind, right? And now she's the last of her people to not be joined. You see them all; they're wearing. You can see in this image, they're wearing all of their traditional clothing, right? So I can get it more close up. They're wearing all their traditional clothing. They're singing their indigenous songs, right? They're very colorful clothing. They have their villages, in their structures there. They're doing ceremony, right? They have she can see she's a little bit. She's like, I'm not scared, but they're saying don't be scared, but she looks like she is a little bit scared. And so all their culture is like, it's like you can see, and they're speaking their native language, they're practicing their native culture. Like this whole thing is like a ceremony. They're doing it in a way that makes her feel comfortable. Once she and they have engineered, right, she's one of the 13 people on the earth out of billions, right, who has been immune to the virus that fuses everyone's mind into one hive mind, right? And in this ceremony, they fly in this now engineered version of the virus that will turn her, right? and there's all this. They're talking to her. They're trying to comfort her. They're like making her feel, but like, they lie her down. Or sorry, they bring this pot. There's like a cooler with a pot in it. When they open it up, this gas, some kind of like almost like steam comes out. Once she breathes it in, right? Now she's infected, and she begins to shake, just like everybody does. And then they lie her down so she doesn't fall down and hurt herself. And then when she comes back up, all the songs stop, all the indigenous practices stop, all the indigenous language stops. Nobody talks to anybody, right? Everyone gets up and leaves the village. All the goats and their animals, they open it up and they let them all go. The goats chase after her, but she doesn't even look back to the goat that she was just petting a little while ago. And some people are talking about, like, obviously I'm an indigenous person, so I can, I see a lot of people comment on this. What does this mean about, what is this saying about colonization, or, and about what the hive mind is, what they're doing. So let me see if I can see what this person says. We previously learned that in the hive mind, we're looking ways to get stragglers like Carol who are immune to join the Carol Flauta says no. Several others seem more eager to be absorbed, including Kusamayo, a young woman from Peru. The rest are people in our small mountain village. They go about their day, tending animals, living out their lives as if they weren't one giant Borg. A plane flies overhead containing her own custom variant of the virus. When it arrives, the village's inhabitants all gather and prepare for Kusamayo to join them. They play instruments and sing, evoking feelings of a religious celebration. The hive mind, piloting Kusamayo's family, reassures her that it won't hurt. As she trembles and shakes, the village continues to sing. While we don't get the translation of what the hive mind is saying, it feels as haunting as a Gregorian chant. Once Kusamayo passes over, she stands back up with that same unnerving smile the hive mind always has. Immediately, everyone in the town packs up and moves on. Previously, we watched the inhabitants of Kusamayo's village living out their old lives. They mended clothes, raised goats, built fences, and cooked Kusamayo's favorite food. However, as soon as she becomes part of the hive mind, reality sinks in. Every single moment was all an act to keep one woman happy. We don't know where these people are headed, but I have to assume it's somewhere similar to the rec center Carol visited. To save resources and space, dozens sleep on the floor side by side. So, anyways, so that's basically what happened. So, and we've seen this before, like something similar where when Diabate is recreating Casino Royale in the previous episode, once he leaves, everyone just stops talking and just it's all like all of it's an act that's being put on, and like you could read it in the moment as like I talked about in that video, like you could read it as like he's dating the entire hive mind, which it is an entire hive mind, and it is one giant mind, right? And so, so it is weird because these things don't exist in the real world, but it is like, so what happens to the native village? What happens to that indigenous people once every single person is infected? Right? So like to the hive, there's like, well, all of the hive, all of the people still exist because the information, right? Everyone's lives is still stored in the hive mind, right? So to the hive mind, everything is great, everything is fine because everyone, and I was also part of that, everyone is being jack full of happiness chemicals like dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin and vasopressin, right? And everybody's just being flooded like crackheads with these happiness chemicals. Anyway, like some of these chemicals also are produced when you do things like meth and cocaine. And if you take certain substances like heroin, you feel like it's the best time of your life, right? So everyone is just like an alien virus hive mind junkie, right? One could say, because that's one thing Zosha tells Carl, like, as good as you feel, it only gets better once you join, right? Somebody who's doing heroin is like, hey buddy, you got to start doing heroin. As good as you feel, like being a successful person and loving your family, heroin feels better. Heroin is like an infinite orgasm. Like heroin is the best you could ever feel. Like I remember like a meth head was like, I miss meth. I felt so good when I was on it. Right? Like you like that's the thing where it's like this, like I need to save you. It's like somebody who is like smoking crack being like, I need to save you by shoving crack in your mouth, or like forcing a crack pipe in your mouth, right? Somebody who's doing cocaine is like, right? I need to save you by making you fucking by stuffing cocaine up your nose. Right now, like of course, then it's kind of like it's a weird thing where it's like obviously like maybe it like feels really great to be on a shit ton of drugs. Like, is it better for billions of people to have crack injected straight into their brain by radio waves from aliens? Like, I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. Ultimately, it's like if it's just like having lots of happiness chemicals in your brain, everyone should just become a wirehead and like get a button that like is linked straight to your brain that just like zaps the happiness center. I mean, that's actually a science fictional idea that's happened before too, right? There's this thing called the wirehead where people, if you give a rat, right, the ability to basically, I think they give a rat an ability to push a button that actually had these electrodes that surgically inserted into the rat's brain that would just trigger the happiness center, and then like dozens of rats basically just died being stuck. They starved to death hitting the button that triggered their happiness center until they died, which is what the Pluribus hive mind is doing. It's all dying. They're starving to death because they refuse to eat apples, or they're all going to die after killing themselves, spreading their virus to another planet. It's like everyone getting COVID. No. So anyways, but long story short, so I feel like I kind of get what they're trying to do. Like in that sense, it is a colonizing force in the sense that it is offering something. It's going to take everything from you, which is true. Like that's colonization does try to take everything from you. It offers you. It tries to make it palatable, right? Like everyone is acting out. Everyone is acting out the what the girl wants, right? In order to keep her in a calm, keep her in a position where she joins, right? The hive mind is constantly trying to lull people. They do the same thing to Carol. They're trying to lull her into a sense of security, and then they're hiding the truth, which is they're actually planning to. Carol believes that they can't turn her without consent, but they figure out a way, which many people have suggested. They could use Carol's eggs that she had frozen previously to reverse engineer stem cells, which then could be used to create a altered version of the virus that could infect Carol. And she finds out, she's extremely mad, and she gets a nuclear bomb at the end. And so, I mean, and I feel like it does, it's like it's definitely interesting. I want to see where the show goes. I mean, all the characters are really entertaining. The parallels with AI is definitely on point. Consuming everything, turning into, as I mentioned previously, a slightly thinner than olive oil, flavorless, tasteless, odorless, pH neutral substance that can keep you alive. But it's not, and Vince Gilligan has used that when he talked about AI. He said, could you survive on a diet of crap? You could probably live for a while on it, right? But would that be a good life, right? When he's talking about AI generation, because AI generation does, right, seek to suck out everyone's soul. And also, Menusa says this invader has stolen everyone's soul, right? It's like a space Shang Tsung. It's a space radio frequency based Shang Tsung that eats everyone's soul and has no soul of its own. Right, it's like Gen AI. That is very similar. It eats up everyone's art and it has no soul of its own, and it can pull out, right, other people's stolen images and spew them at you. Just like the hive mind can spew out an indigenous ceremony from this girl's Peruvian home, right? But it doesn't create any new culture. It doesn't have it's huge like a giant data center, like Google itself, right? Like Meta or ChatGPT, but it doesn't have any personality. It doesn't create anything new. It's killing everything. It's destroying. It's eating all the world's water and resources, and it's also destroying human civilization. And I've made many videos about that previously. Cyber narcotics is just one of them. One of probably 10 or more videos on Gen AI. And so, like in that sense, it really does work well. Actually, yeah. It's. I feel like my feelings on it are a little bit muddy just because of how it kind of flips back and forth, and I feel like partially that has to do with the writers. I mean, it's not like they just completely disregarded any indigenous perspective. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone through all of the. Like they actually did film this on. I'm pretty sure they filmed it on site at the indigenous village. They had the actual native girl play, speak her language and play her part as her own in her own culture, which is good. I mean, and Minuso's character again, like. Minuso's character, like, it is he is a strong character, and like they are trying to make these characters more complicated and less, two-dimensional, I guess, which is good. It also like it does kind of make it a bit it does kind of muddy the possibilities of saying anything more than that. But on the other hand, the show does have limited. Again, it has like a limited perspective, limited by like who the showrunner in particular is, the team that's making it. And like wanting to make something kind of like Twilight Zone, which is what Vince Gilligan has said. That's great, Twilight Zone was a great show. Wanting to make something like Body Snatchers, Twilight Zone, getting back to his X-Files roots. I mean, that's fine. That's great. I don't think in the oh shoot, my computer's slowing down. Hold up. I like media. I like science fiction. I like Body Snatchers is a good movies. Twilight Zone is good. Speaking against AI, I can see Pluribus as like a diatribe or like a critique of generative artificial intelligence and a lot of the big tech modern world as we see it, which is new. It's new and unique in that sense. Sorry, my computer is having a rough time at this moment. I got too many things open. Hold up. Yeah. So it's good. Like Pluribus is good in that sense. It's good as a critique of generative AI, some aspects of modern society. Homage. It's just general dystopian science fiction. Homage of the Twilight Zone and all what I just talked about. I don't think it quite reaches the level of The Prisoner, though. I feel like, I mean, again, from an indigenous perspective, it doesn't quite reach the level of The Prisoner, because of the unbridgeable gap. Because there's a schism, I feel, and there's just things that are extremely difficult or impossible to access when it comes to things like actual colonization. Some people, it's interesting when I look at that. Like, I looked at some like non-white, like non-American perspectives on Pluribus, and a lot of people will be like, there's so much people. I mean, in particular, there's like black people talking about how they want Carol to be like the hero and likable, and it's like Carol is not. Carol is kind of like racist a lot of the time, and there's a lot of like white queer women like kind of upset at descriptions of Carol from non-white perspectives, um, which is people have different perspectives, and like when she gets in that cop car, it's like, oh, or like when she comes into the house with her gun, right? When she's all afraid of Menusos coming in, right? There's like now when people are like, oh, I felt like that was like when she's invited him, it's like, oh, is he dangerous? And the Hive does say like he wouldn't hurt. We don't think he would hurt you, right? Like, yeah, technically he has done some things that's dangerous, but it is kind of like it was viewed because I when the reactions from non-white perspectives to various episodes is like really different from the white reactions. Like, oh my gosh, she's driving on a cop car. I would never get in that car. Or like, and like it is. Mr. Diabate does at least kind of like mention like I don't think I would choose that car. And so there's some self-conscious. There is some like self-consciousness about some of those things, but it definitely lacks, or it has a particular perspective that does lack. I think now I can feel like it does lack a significant amount of consciousness about non-North American white perspectives, let's put it that way, and certain limited South American perspectives. Because also it's important to remember that like not necessarily like in South America it's different from North America, and there is the Monroe Doctrine, but being indigenous in South America is also not the same thing. Not everybody in South America is also necessarily indigenous either, right? It's a different perspective. It's a whole other different history that's hard to explain into North America. But so I feel like it does have some limits that doesn't quite allow it to reach that level. But of The Prisoner, another, but it's not a bad show. I would still recommend the show. I'm still eager to see season 2. Like I made a video that I talked about last week. I talked about the positives and negatives ways of being in individuals and the positive and negative ways of being in community. And I think that's still like those explorations in Pluribus, I think are still they still apply. Just as like procedural mystery TV show as like dystopian fiction, it's like really good for sure. Yeah. Anyway, that's all I have to say on that. I should wrap it up. It is now I'm a bit late. Thanks everybody for watching. Don't forget Neofeud is on sale. Neofeud is also like The Prisoner and like Pluribus. Neofeud is dystopian science fiction, but it is a video game. Neofeud is a video game where a cyborg, a social worker for homeless robots, an ex-con robo gangsta, and a ex-trillionaire princess all try to overthrow floating palaces full of ultra-rich techno kings above a wastelandified Earth, and stop this neo-feudal imperial system from wrecking everything further. And it's also a game with wannabe Mega Man / John Connor send-ups, unplugged Matrix agents, anti-war Terminators, and homicidal Sega Genesises, and lots and lots and lots and lots of 80s, 90s action movie, video game, and science fictional and dystopian nostalgia. And there's junkies named Gibson that sit on the street and overdose on liquid crystal lithium until their side brains go into blue screen of death, and fun stuff like that. So if you like those kinds of things, check out Neofeud. It's on sale till January 5th, so don't forget, it's 70% off. If you like the game, don't forget to leave even a very short review, because it does help to get the game discovered when people are browsing the Steam site. You can also grab Neofeud on itch.io for Windows and Mac and Linux on the itch site. You can also get other games like Decolonators, Paging with Gun, Indigenous Star. This is Neofeud and Terminus Machina short story collections. Paging with Gun is and A Woman is a book by Holly that critiques right-wing Christian culture. You can also follow at Silver Spook Games, at Mastodon.social, at Cyberspook Games at wandering.shop. You can also follow on Twitter. Because Twitter is being a dick to artists right now, you can also follow Holly at Allergic to Blue. And you can follow Holly on Instagram, but also on Twitter if you want. And I'm also on Blue Sky and all over the place. Cyberspook Games, Cyberspook Guy. But if you look for Cyberspook, you probably find the game and personal accounts. And yeah, all of us all over the place. And also, thank you to Patreon patrons. Without your support, it's hard to keep doing this work. So thanks for helping us out. Massively appreciate. Oh, we got a new Patreon, so I should probably add that person on the list there. Yeah, so you can help us out at ko-fi.com and patreon.com/Neofeud to give us ongoing support. And also, on Patreon, you can get access to behind the scenes of what we're working on. Cyberspook future games. This is one of them we're currently working on. It's like a retro 3D game set in the Neofeud world universe. And then there's also, we also do, speaking of Indigenous, where we do Indigenous Ahupua'a, that's our native Hawaiian sovereignty, social and economic structures restoration, and also environment restoration here in Hawaii. As I'm a native Hawaiian, as I said previously. And there's also Neofeud 2 updates we have share here. And you can also get access to Cyberspook Discord and the Cyberspook University, over 1,000 hours of all the content produced here, categorized by topics. And also, thank you to our new Patreon patron who is named AAA. I think it's like 9 A's. Thank you all very much, 9 A's. Oh, hold on 1 second here. And yeah. Hey, what's up, Street Cat? Sorry, I didn't look at all the chat. I'm trying to get through this thing. If I looked at the chat, it would take even longer, and I'm already over time. But thanks a lot for everybody for stopping by. Thanks for watching. Be seeing you. That's gonna be my sign out. That's the prisoner sign out. Keep your eye on the prison wardens. Be excellent to each other and have a good time. And we'll be back next week.